And welcome to Themes and Memes, a different kind of movie review. My name is Adam from cerebralrevolt.com, a website which is currently offline at the moment, but that's a long story. And I'm joined here with my colleague, Aaron Franz from theedgeoftransitions.com. How are you doing today, Aaron?
Very good. Good to talk to you again, Adam.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion tonight because I'm going to apologize in advance to the audience. I'm extremely hungover from my Christmas, the work Christmas party that I had last night. It was kind of a must-attend type thing, and so yeah, that's just the way things worked out. So I apologize in advance if I end up losing my train of thought or going off on wild tangents. But hey, it could be fun. Who knows?
Tis the season. We can all relate.
The season.
No big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah. We got a special show today, a very special show indeed. This is our year in review for 2014. What do you think about this?
Yeah, well, it's going to be should be another interesting discussion. I mean, as I think we alluded to in previous recordings, we said we're going to be talking about themes and memes from a broader perspective. And, what we decided to do is basically just kind of do a sort of a Christmas special sort of year in review type show where we basically look back at the last 12 months of themes and memes because it's been running for pretty much bang on 12 months now.
Actually, so, I looked that up. I was kind of surprised because I didn't remember myself. We did a couple of films. We did Elysium was the first official episode of themes and memes.
I actually think it was Pacific Rim. Actually, I think
Pacific Rim. Okay, so this is a little history lesson, not only for ourselves but for listeners, in that we started doing movie reviews before we did themes and memes. We were just doing it because it was something we liked doing. Then we started to do this podcast.
Yeah. So the point at which it officially became themes and memes is kind of ambiguous, I think. But regardless, yeah, I guess I think from memory, I think Pacific Rim was the first one where we said, right, this was themes and memes, and we had some theme music, and it was a different kind of thing of its own.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm just gonna contradict you here, as my. I'm pretty sure it was Elysium that we started the podcast with. I don't know. And that was in December of 2013. And then when 2014 finally got around, we did the film Assault on Wall Street. So with the year in review, I guess we start with the film Assault on Wall Street, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose one thing I just sort of wanted to address before we sort of start talking about the films themselves was the concept of, I suppose, propaganda in general, because obviously what we discuss in our reviews is the use of essentially what is propaganda, and especially in terms of things like predictive programming, which is kind of it's kind of the same thing, and one of the things which we sort of like to try and drive home in our discussions is the fact that fiction and drama are one of the most powerful tools in terms of the use of propaganda. And I just wanted to read out a quote here that I've got from the French sociologist Jacques Ellul, who wrote a number of books, very, very interesting, very, very well-educated man, very mysterious man. But he wrote, French man, He wrote a book called Propaganda, which is an incredible book, really, covering the whole history and the use and the techniques and the role of propaganda in society and how it works. And it's a really incredible book, which I'd really recommend to anyone. But anyway, there's a quote in the book Propaganda where he talks about the different types of propaganda and their definitions. And he says, we must also distinguish between covert propaganda and overt propaganda. The former tends to hide its aims, identity, significance, and source. The people are not aware that someone is trying to influence them and do not feel that they're being pushed in a certain direction. This is often called black propaganda. It also makes use of mystery and silence. The other kind, white propaganda, is open and above board. There is a ministry of propaganda. One admits that propaganda is being made, its source is known, its aims or intentions identified. The public knows that an attempt is being made to influence it. And so what he's talking about there is, I think in my view, the difference between, say, what most people, I guess, in mainstream society would consider to be propaganda in terms of, say, overt political bias being presented in news stories or via the, radio hosts or political pundits or, political groups or whoever, people who clearly state what their aims are and intentions are. So he's basically delineating two different types of propaganda and emphasizing the fact that what he's referring to there as black propaganda is basically what we talk about when we're doing our film reviews. It's a covert form of propaganda. It hides its aims, identity, significance, and source, as he says. It's basically using a vessel which most people don't recognize as being any form of threat or containing any form of agenda to get ideas across into people's minds. And so this is something, obviously, that we touch on again and again in our reviews. And I just thought, in reviewing the whole year, it would be, useful to reference this very, very poignant and pertinent quote regarding what propaganda and predictive programming really are and how they fit into the whole world of drama, fiction, and the culture industry at large. Yeah.
Propaganda isn't what you think it is. It's far more. That's what you don't expect is what black propaganda is. That's the whole point. That's covert as propaganda. It masquerades as something else. In the case of films, it's masquerades as just pure entertainment. That's what we think movies are, but they're so much more than that.
Yeah, that's right. But I guess we should maybe look back on
Let's take a stroll down memory lane.
Stroll down memory lane. So where do you want to? Where are we going to start from here, Aaron?
Like I was saying, we were getting all nitpicky in the beginning, and it doesn't even really matter because those first interviews were themes and memes essentially. But it's fun. It's fun for me to think back on when we started doing this because it has been a cool series. I'm glad that it's something that we're doing. So this is this first year in review is a cool show. So this is exciting.
Yeah, it is. But I personally have started off with Pacific Rim here, and so a couple of the notes that I just took down were in terms of the predominant themes and memes in that film were a scenario where you've got a future dystopia or sort of mass catastrophe scenario. You've got an obvious transhumanism or transhuman element in there with all the sort of the synthetic telepathy and all these big robots that they were using and all the other sort of converging technologies you see in that film. You've also got, of course, the world government, global society meme coming up very, very strongly in that film in terms of like a global military force fighting off this kind of alien invasion type thing, So I think those were the main important points that really stood out to me with that film.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, the main thing for me probably would just be the whole military aspect of super soldiers, but beyond that, the mechanized warrior sorts of things, which similar projects are in the works in real life. It's kind of, I guess the main point would be just kind of portraying that and making it look cool, and that's probably about it.
Yeah, well, there certainly are. I mean, we've had films like Edge of Tomorrow, which is the same thing, the whole exoskeleton thing, and mechanized warfare, and you've got the new video game Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Where I'm not sure if anybody's seen the posters for that, but it features like a soldier wearing a big exoskeleton, which is that's a big upgrade there. That's a new one.
It's COD. That's what that game's called. Yeah. It's like a fish, but it tastes a lot worse. Bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, I think I'd rather eat a real cod than play that video game. Yeah.
Okay, so the next film after Pacific Rim that we discussed would have been Elysium, right?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, Elysium, and we actually did 2 separate podcasts on that. But as a whole, I think that the movie was about presenting a transhuman future which was inevitable, and therefore it's necessary to ensure that equitable distribution of converging technologies occurs, because it's going to happen anyway, so we got to make sure that everybody gets hold of these things. Yeah.
Don't bother thinking about or don't bother to question the whole idea of converging technologies and their place in society. Just accept the fact that this is going to happen, and we need to make sure that as you say, we have equitable distribution. And I think along with that, the sort of other main themes that stood out were, once again, a future dystopia. I think it was following some kind of ecological catastrophe of some sort, like overpopulation, perhaps environmental issues, global warming type stuff. I'm not sure. They weren't really clear on that part. But obviously you've got, super small elite, living in their sort of AI-controlled space station in space, with the rest of humanity living in absolute subsistence and horror back down on Earth, You've got all the transhumanism themes, of course, with Matt Damon, the sun god savior, wearing his exoskeleton and performing the revolutionary act to make sure that the equal distribution of converging technologies came about, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's what the revolution's all about, is bringing liberty to the masses. It always is. So there you go.
Yeah.
The next film on the list here would be Assault on Wall Street. Very interesting film, I think, actually. Terrible film, but interesting.
Yeah.
Real quick, I think the main point was simply to encourage reactionary violence in response to obvious social inequalities in society.
Basically, yeah. I mean, that's it. It was not a very nice film. I found it difficult to watch at parts. I think you also mentioned that was the case for you as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was very, very evocative and quite sort of painful and disturbing in some places because of it. Basically, it's presenting a disenfranchised man in a present-day scenario, which a lot of people can relate to, and with the incorporation of real themes and concepts and events, some real news clips and all about the crash, the Wall Street crash and financial issues and all this kind of stuff. And it was just, again, appealing to people's desire for vengeance against the system and promoting a sort of violent vigilantism, really, as the kind of solution to that, and using very, very strong emotional sort of, triggers, I suppose, to elicit that kind of feeling in the audience. And I think they probably did a pretty good job on most of the audience in that regard.
The people who made it through that film, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
That was a rough one. Okay, so the next film that we reviewed was entitled Now You See Me. Interesting, a little film about stage magic. My notes on this were that it was a Freemasonic allegory concerning magic, and that the stage, what you see on stage, is a show for the masses. It's belief that is given to the masses, but the real truth remains hidden and unseen.
That's right. Yeah. It was a grand magic act where you've got to basically, as we even mentioned in that podcast, I think we mentioned the fact that it was essentially a magic act within a magic act. yeah, in many ways. And I actually discussed something quite similar with Thomas Dekker recently in a separate podcast. But
Oh, cool. I'm looking
anyway,
forward to that. I haven't heard it yet, but that's one that I know is in the pipeline, so I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, a lot of similar discussions and that, but yeah, we've got the sort of you had the four horsemen, of course, kind of a symbolic biblical thing, and then the whole idea of the fifth man, who was the grand master alchemist type, controlling everything, and he was also like the actor as well, and so the Fool, he played all these different. There was all so many, as you say, Masonic archetypes, incorporated into that film. And I think
the main writer was, what was the name? He's got. His name is like Jackin, or Boaz Yakin is the name.
Oh yeah, Boaz Yakin. Yeah.
So that tells you it all right there.
That tells you exactly what types of people you're dealing with in terms of films like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then, after that film, we reviewed Her.
That's right.
By Spike Jonze, which is a very different film, and which is a very, very good film, which we both enjoyed and both thought was fantastically done. Mm-hmm. And we, again, had to record 2 separate hours on that show just because, I think me more than anyone else had so much to say about it. I just found it so poignant, again, and evocative, and contained so many sublime moments. So it's a film that was dealing with a lot of the same conceptual material, transhumanism in some regards, in terms of at least like things like converging technologies, artificial intelligence, that kind of thing, but also was kind of an allegory for the present day reality that we live in and our growing dependence on technology and how that is changing us as human beings in so many different ways, most especially in terms of our communication and relationships and our individual and collective psyche as a whole, I think.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about that. And, we felt that was a very welcome change from most of the films that deal with these types of concepts. But one thing I just wanted to add there in regard to that film was something I kind of uncovered fairly recently, actually, which I found was very interesting. And that was the fact that this film was released in January of 2014, I believe, for Her.
Yeah.
I think it was made in 2013, but obviously released January 2014. But this film came out just before Microsoft's Cortana app, which is very, very similar to at least in terms of what you see in the sort of promotional videos, very, very similar to the Samantha AI character in Her, where you've got the Joaquin Phoenix character carrying around this kind of voice in his cell phone all the time, just sort of chatting with her and asking her questions, and she's kind of acting as a secretary a lot of the time and all this kind of stuff. And
the love interest pops.
And the love interest, mm-hmm. That too. That was obviously one of the main things, but I just thought it was interesting to note that this film came out, just a few months before this technology was released to the public. Where it's a very similar scenario. It's kind of like Siri with the iPhone, where it's voice recognition, but much more advanced.
You know what they call that, Adam? They call that serendipity.
Serendipity.
Right? That's it. I think that's the whole of that there. Nothing else to it, really. Yeah, I know. It was really a good film. No doubt about it. I know we both agree on that. And I think one of the main points was how it brought up the fragility of the human psyche, actually. And within the context of our relationship to technology, and more specifically artificial intelligence, which is coming down the pipeline too. Yeah. Yeah,
that's right. It was a very, very complex film. As I said before, deals with a lot of emotional, nuanced issues, and was very, very engaging, very, very well done. But again, perhaps, maybe some predictive programming elements in there that might have been deliberate. Who knows? I'm not sure about that.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah, I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it was a good film nonetheless. At least they did it right. And we haven't done a whole lot of good films.
No.
Actually, Adam, haven't we?
Well, the problem is there's not that many of them out there.
Yeah.
Not these days anyway,
and certainly the next film we reviewed was a perfect example of a terrible piece of turd that we had to review here, and it was entitled Transcendence.
AKA Johnny Depp and the Night of the Nets.
I was going to say, like we like to call Johnny Depp. So Johnny Depp I think it was all about guilt-tripping the audience
Yes.
into vilifying their own fear over emerging
Yes.
technologies and the proponents of those technologies. So it's just a guilt trip for the audience.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, this is something we see in a lot of other type films where, and I think you've mentioned this before in previous podcasts, Aaron, where basically what they'll do in a film is present the worst possible, sort of worst case scenario, and really sort of try and appeal to people's fears of these technologies as a sort of part of the deliberate sort of long-term technique. You know, it's almost like venting off. You know, it's almost like, right, okay, we'll cover the worst possible aspects of a scenario first and just kind of get that out of your system, you know, and sort of so that you've kind of moved through it in some way, and then
you've
we'll
worked
come
through
to
your
accept
worst
that.
fears of it. And
You work,
yeah.
you work through your worst fears. But yeah, that's basically what it was. It was a silly film with an A-list actor just basically trying to promote the whole singularity, artificial intelligence idea by getting you to identify first with the characters and then taking you through a confusing plot, presenting lots of kind of confusing and sort of disconcerting scenarios, and then using a big emotional twist at the end to, guilt trip you into thinking that you sort of maybe backed the wrong side, and maybe, these things weren't.
Maybe you should rethink your thoughts on all these subjects. Yeah.
Yeah, you should reevaluate your own convictions.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I think that was basically the kind of emphasis on that film there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I suppose the film that we did after that was a bit better. It was an independent film entitled The Machine. I mean, would you agree? Was this one better, Adam?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was more honest.
Yeah.
In terms of just in terms of like the military's leading role in converging technologies and their development,
That's right.
and the real agendas for this, and the realities of this kind of research, and these types of agendas. Once again, future dystopia of some degree, war with China on the horizon, blah 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 blah. And just the ultimate promotion of artificial intelligence and converging technologies as being the new world. That was kind of the conclusion that was presented in that film. So although it was kind of honest in terms of why these types of things are happening and who's behind them and the kind of driving ideologies and the realities that exist in this area of research, you're still basically presented with the fact that this stuff is inevitable, and that the transhuman sort of ideology or group of concepts would represent the new world.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where we're going.
Yeah, one of the main themes in it that I find fascinating, and has a lot of occult significance actually, is that of man's creation overthrowing him. So the creation overthrowing the creator. Very charged there.
Yeah.
And
it comes up a bit in the other films as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you see it a lot. It fits right in here with the whole transhuman AI singularity concept, certainly. Again, lots of occult ways to interpret that, and the weakness of the human being itself is highlighted in a big way in this movie too. So that's another recurring theme meme we see a lot. Yeah,
that's right, and. Yeah, I mean, as you say, as we see in so many other films, and excuse me, again, it's like the subtitle of your book, man's scientific rise to godhood, and also the concept of man, or the creator overcoming man, man overcoming God in one sense.
Yes.
And man's creation overcoming him.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's just a natural. It's a cycle. It's the same thing happening again. Yeah, it's
a scientific cycle. Yeah, like the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah. Well, we went back in time for our following movie review with Rosemary's Baby, an older film. Decided to do that, and real quick in a nutshell, I guess it was about the terror of being involved in a cult. Really, so it's a horror movie about being within a cult. Yeah,
it was basically. I mean, I think it was just it was made by Roman Polanski, who was an interesting, mysterious, and questionable character, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of really just an illustration of secret societies and sort of occultism, occult practices, ritualism, sacrificial rituals, that kind of thing, revolving around sort of semi-satanic Luciferian type ideologies and stuff like that. basically sort of showing you the way in which these kind of these inner sanctums of occultists can totally manipulate and control a person's life through multiple methods of subtle coercion, I think.
Yeah, psychological, I guess torture, really. Torturing a person and backing them into a corner where they feel like they can't get out.
Gaslighting them as well.
Yeah, gaslighting for sure.
Changing their sense of reality deliberately so that they think that they're going mad, so that you can have complete control over them. You can become the dominator,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so after Rosemary's Baby, we reviewed a similar film from a similar year, and it was only a couple of years afterwards, I believe, and it was The Brotherhood of the Bell, a TV movie. Again, this film was about the terror of trying to expose a cult and the inability to really be able to do that, I guess.
Yeah, that was basically it. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of an illustration of a typical sort of low-level secret society member who's, not really had much sort of serious involvement in the fraternal order that he's in, and then finding out about, what the order is really all about, and, how serious it is, and the types of practices that they engage in, and the amount of power that they really have to, again, just like in Rosemary's Baby, completely control, and not just an individual, but in this case, an entire country, an entire economy. This was presented as being at least a national society, with national reach and influence. This particular society, anyway. Just illustrating how, anyone who would try and go against that sort of fraternal order in terms of wanting to expose them would just be completely shut down. Every time they started to try and take any action on the issue. And we saw that being presented in a number of different ways throughout the film. So that I thought that was a really interesting illustration of the sort of, I guess, what you might call kind of counterintelligence type tactics, shutting down somebody who has intelligence by countering it through a number of different psychological methods, really.
Yeah.
And not just logical methods, but practical, pragmatic, real-world methods as well,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There are ways
comprehensive
to do it.
film. Yeah, absolutely.
So from that film, we moved on to Transformers: Age of Extinction. Apologies for that one again.
Yeah.
Sorry to Adam and to the people who had to listen to that review. I mean, as I said in that review that we did, I really regret actually seeing that in 3D, because I believe that the use of CGI and some of the visual sequences, in that film, with the 3D effect, actually induces an altered state of consciousness among the audience. And you just basically being bombarded with the most intense imagery you can possibly imagine, and beyond what you can really imagine, really, And of course, it's a Michael Bay film, so at least as far as we know, this one doesn't have any official ties to the Department of Defense Hollywood liaison officers, but the previous 3 films did, and so it stands to reason that there was probably some connection there. Yeah, and they're always building off of the themes from the original movies too, and like going somewhere with that. They were at least doing that.
Yeah, and just glorifying the military-industrial complex with a slightly different twist. We started to see sort of anti-establishment type themes in a very general, ambiguous sense coming through in this film. But at the same time, they were sort of just glorifying big state institutions, glorifying technology, and again, just sort of using this like intense visual imagery to, I believe, induce an altered state of consciousness, so that, you sort of begin to subliminally or in some sort of subconscious way accept some of the ideas and the concepts that were being presented. Yeah. I would refer people to the Honest Trailers review of that film. Actually,
that's pretty funny.
If people familiar with that, people familiar with Honest Trailers, look up Honest Trailers for Transformers 4: Age of Extinction, because that's really well observed.
It actually was pretty insightful. I mean, its purpose is comedy. It's hilarious, but it's all actually themes and memes-esque, because they kind of call out the film for some of the nonsense that they throw in there. Yeah.
And they even picked up on some of the stuff that we didn't pick up on in our review, which was really, really interesting as well. And some of the stuff that they mentioned really got me thinking, and I was very fascinated and intrigued by that. So I definitely recommend that.
So I guess we got to say kudos to the Honest Trailers guys doing that stuff, because they did a good job on that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think maybe if there was a purpose to Transformers Age of Extinction, it was just to utterly confuse the audience and to pander to China. That's what I have in my notes. That's about it.
And then, yeah, confuse the audience into pander to China. And I mean, even in the Honest Trailers review, they even have that section where the narrator, the American narrator stops and a Chinese narrator takes over speaking in Chinese. And she's basically talking about how the stupid Americans have, basically the audience in America has become so sick of Transformers that they've had to try and export it to China and start pandering to a Chinese audience by using loads of product placement, which we discussed in our review as well. So, yeah.
Kind of humorous. Kind of ridiculous and sad at the same time, but it is what it is. Just par for the course.
It's Michael Bay. It's Michael Bay. Nothing. That's basically it.
Oh man. So then after that, we did the film Divergent. And this is one of many of the teen novel trilogies turned into a film.
Yep.
And I guess real quick. The quick synopsis is familiarizing a young audience with the idea of a dystopian future. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, once again, we have another scenario where it's set. I'm not sure how far into the future, but again, it's post-war, post-something, post-cataclysm. Where the remaining population has got to, establish some kind of new social order of some description, and that just so happens to be a sort of technocratic caste system. Very much like something like, I don't know, Brave New World or something like that. And, just like apart from that, just picking up again on all the themes and memes that were presented in all of these teen trilogy films like The Hunger Games and stuff, where you've got it's obviously directed at teenagers and adolescents, although I must say it is actually popular with a pretty wide demographic in terms of age. The Divergent and a lot of these other teen novels, but regardless,
people of all ages read the book too. I've seen them doing it, so I
can
attest to it.
Oh no, I've seen it as well. I've seen people in their 40s and 50s reading this kind of stuff. So yeah,
you got to keep up on what's new.
Oh yeah, gotta be in with the youth trends. Yeah, don't want to be uncool. Can't be uncool, man.
I'm hip. I'm with
it. Yeah. I'm with it. That's right. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
But again, revolutionary. And lots of references to Huxley, I think, in that film, in terms of some of the points that he emphasized in some of his talks regarding sort of different percentages of the population and their psychological predilection towards being hypnotized, that kind of thing, and there being a very sort of small percentage of people who couldn't be hypnotized, who were the divergent in the film. And so they, of course, were the saviors who, ultimately came to basically execute this sort of revolutionary scenario and sort of, stop the technocratic dictatorship from becoming any worse, because there was a kind of a takeover in place during that film from the technocratic Kate Winslet character.
That's right. Yeah. The matriarchal evil character, as a matriarch, the head evil character being female.
Yeah. That's right. Something we see in quite a few films. We saw that in Elysium as well, of course, with the Jodie Foster character. Mm-hmm. And we also see it in the next film that we reviewed, didn't we?
That's right. The Giver.
Yeah.
Not unlike Divergent. It's difficult to find a way in which it is different from Divergent. Yeah. It's very easy to find a way it's similar.
Yeah, it's black and white, I think, was the difference.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But, once again, another teen novel turned into a movie, future society, post-apocalypse, where, they've created a highly regimented, caste-based sort of communitarian system. You've got, once again, references to things like Brave New World, and as I mentioned, the book Walden 2 by B.F. Skinner, the behaviorist, where, it's a communitarian setup where the past has been erased because they feel that to be, too dangerous and to be the cause of all, suffering and problems in the world, etc.
Yeah, the mistakes of the past can't be repeated. Therefore, we have to suppress parts of the human being in order so that history doesn't repeat itself.
Well, that's right, because obviously in Brave New World, you've got Soma. That's the drug that is used to basically control the population and get them to accept and to love their roles and basically their servitude, as Socrates himself said, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same premise as we see in this film, where they're forced to take their mandatory daily injections to suppress all their emotions, you know, because obviously the leaders of this system, you know, strongly feel that emotions are the enemy, the threat. They are the cause of all, you know, pain and suffering in the world. Therefore, we've got to negate them by chemistry. And so there's even a wee sort of transhuman twist to that in some ways as well. Yeah. But we know we've seen this kind of thing with books like Cain, which the film Equilibrium was based on. So yeah, it's nothing new there, but again, you know, hitting on the same themes and memes: teen novel, future dystopia, technocratic society, you know, references to all the sort of technocrats of the 20th century and promotion of revolutionary themes.
That's right. Yeah, that's all that needs to be said, really. And then the next and final movie that we reviewed for the year was Lucy. We ended it on interesting note there. I guess Lucy would be about pushing transhumanist ideas with a feminist appeal. Well,
yeah, it was just like Transcendence Part 2. We're just going to switch Johnny Depp for Scarlett Johansson. So once again, Scarlett Johansson turns up in a kind of transhumanist-themed film, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to see her in more of these types of films in the future. Mm-hmm. She's really in the limelight right now. But again, you know, just about transhumanism, neuroenhancing drugs, appealing to the female, appealing to feminists, of course. There's a lot to do with, you know, females being subjugated, or this character, Lucy, being subjugated, abused by men. And then, you know, this sort of transhuman neuroenhancing drug being the solution to her problem, where she basically just literally becomes a god. You know, she transcends physicality, time, space, and ends up having basically obtaining complete omnipotence and omnipresence, really. Yep. It was a really silly, stupid film, just like Transcendence.
Yeah, there you go.
with a lot of occult stuff in it, though. I mean, you know, the once again, you know, the scientific rise to godhood. You know, we literally see that process throughout the film. It is her scientific rise. You know, Lucy, or Lucifer, as we like to call her. You know, her rising to a state of godhood, basically through science. And so that is really, you know, that is basically just a very, very crude summary of the transhuman ideology in general, really, or at least the singularity ideology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tried to cram in a lot of occult stuff, which was really profound. And on its own, if like the individual occult concepts they explored as a whole movie, I think it would have worked. They just kind of tried to pile them all on, and nothing really tied together.
No, about it. That's basically it. They're just kind of like, it's kind of like we discussed. They sort of had to just take a list of all the mandatory themes and memes which were to be included in the film, and just as long as they got those covered, then they just wrap the plot around it. They just kind of came up with a plot at the end and go, okay, so how can we fit this into a story? Well, we can't really, so we'll just present a whole bunch of transhuman themes and memes in a random sequence and confuse the audience. I mean, I actually felt sort of quite, I don't know, a bit weird, and as I think I mentioned this, a bit weird and confused after seeing that film. I think there was possibly some NLP or some sort of visual, sort of hypnotic techniques being used in that film. I'm not sure if that's just my opinion or whether anybody else agrees, but I think there might have been something going on with that film. Similar to Transcendence, was a really sort of stupid film. It was all over the place. It was confusing, but was really, really pushing these memes in a very, very overt way.
Exactly. And in this, I kind of want to talk about this now. I mean, those were all the films that were reviewed, but I think just building on that last point you had there, Adam, the fact that these movies are not well-executed movies, they're not good movies from a technical standpoint, like the audience is... they don't craft a film well. It's a bad film. No. However, I think this is a new form of filmmaking, and the label that you and I kind of came up with, Adam, was agenda-driven filmmaking. I think that's pretty apt.
Yeah, that's basically it. And you know, we've seen this in a lot of other films as well. I mean, there are films that we haven't actually reviewed in themes and memes, but which also contain, you know, all the same themes and memes that we've been discussing throughout all of our reviews and this review as well. I mean, one that we both recently saw, which we haven't actually reviewed, was Interstellar, which was a another interesting film. I mean, that was another scenario where it's, I don't know how far in the future, but it's, future dystopia. There's been some kind of ecological, economic catastrophe, like the world is, basically suffering from like massive climate shifts and all the crops are dying.
Yeah,
and
literally
there's not enough food.
all the people in the world are doomed. The Earth is going to die.
Yeah.
The entire population is going to die. So they have to leave the planet. There's no other way out. That's the scenario.
That's right.
Given. Yeah.
And that was a NASA sponsored or
much like the DoD works with films. I get the impression that NASA worked on this film in the same way. They must have their logo was festooned on everything, so quite obviously they must have done this.
Oh yeah, I mean NASA have been involved with many science fiction productions over the years. I mean they've got their own sort of like social policy and cultural type think tanks at NASA, So I mean, they're just like the DoD Hollywood liaison offices. NASA's got their own counterpart. I'm not sure exactly what the office is called, but it's the same relationship really.
Yeah. And this movie to me, it just came off as NASA griping about their reduced budgets and that they're still important and they gotta like
I mean that's it, yeah.
That's what it came down to me, and that's what really bothered me about the film. I just kind of was sitting there angry about that as an audience personally.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sort of fascinated by science fiction and the whole concept of space exploration and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, it was kind of entertaining as a sci-fi fan in some ways. It was pretty predictable. Yeah. It was okay-ish. I mean, but it was pretty predictable. I mean, if anybody's read the book or seen the film, the Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. It's basically the same scenario, and I won't give away the plot, but it's the same basic scenario. So for true sort of sci-fi fans, it's not going to be very surprising. It's kind of like it's basically just kind of like the Andromeda Strain meets 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, and they threw in obvious references to 2001. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, heavily promoted. Heavily promoted. A lot of emphasis on the sort of I don't know the need for a bigger budget for NASA. The lionization of like space research and science and sort of astronomers and scientists and
they pitted themselves as the only way that humanity could survive in the movie. Well, the only way humanity is going to survive is going off to a faraway planet, which is there's barely even any odds of pulling that off, but it's the only choice, and therefore, the heroic NASA institution is saving the entire world from extinction.
And my gosh, well, look at the sacrifices they have to go through to do it. Look at the sacrifice. We've all I mean, there's that line in the film. We've all got to adapt. We've all got to make sacrifices. For the lead protagonist there, the Matthew McConaughey, and so there's lots of evocative moments in that film with very sort of emotional music and lots of tearful scenes and just a whole emphasis on like sacrifice to save the planet and the again just the lionization of like NASA as the global savior and as the only possible savior to the scenario they were in. So that's pretty much it, I guess, isn't it, in terms of what we've reviewed or what we've sort of covered this year, I guess. I mean, there are a few ones that we haven't reviewed. Like, I mean, one of the other things I wanted to mention just briefly was one thing we have noticed this year is the incorporation of alternative media / truth movement / conspiracy world / anti-establishment type themes into mainstream Hollywood productions, big blockbusters. Transformers 4 is an example of that. We also saw it very, very strongly portrayed in the most recent Captain America film. And it's obviously in many of these teen novels we're seeing the same thing.
Salt on Wall Street too.
Salt on Wall Street. A
lot of them.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm not sure if you've seen this yet, Aaron, but I recently watched that the latest teen novel trilogy turned film franchise, which was The Maze Runner. I watched the first movie of that recently.
Yes.
Same scenarios over and over again. Group of kids trapped in an experiment, basically run by a bunch of technocrats because the world is in a catastrophe, and these kids have been selected because of their innate intelligence and their innate problem-solving abilities. Mm-hmm. And so they're basically sort of haphazardly, or against their will at least, thrown into this sort of horrific experiment. Some transhuman themes, obviously some revolutionary themes, of course, with a film like this. And a lot of occultism as well. I mean, there's even one of the taglines in the film which keeps popping up, and there's like this. They keep on seeing these bits of text on things, which was basically WCKD ISGD, which is basically wicked is good. So that's a bit of sort of a Kabbalistic take on things there, I think. Dropping the vowels. But, obviously, this is a movie being presented at a very young audience for the most part. Obviously, as we said before, there'll be, big, larger demographics who are interested. I mean, when I was in the theater, I saw like 50 and 60-year-olds just there on their own without kids watching this film. Mm-hmm. So it was quite interesting. But, yeah, the whole concept of sort of pitching just that theme, wicked is good. We must do bad things. Yeah.
Odd.
Yeah, odd thing. But obviously, just like so many of all of these teen novels turned into films, same old themes over and over again. You've just got, a future dystopian scenario where, some group of young people are in some sort of horrific situation and have got to execute some kind of revolution and bring justice around, bring about some kind of justice description, or go against the technocratic control system they're under, of whatever description it is. So regardless of what the specifics are, it's the same themes over and over again, and we've seen them, really, really coming out strongly this year, haven't we?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're wanting to put forth the concept of a future dystopia and making it, I guess, really tangible and just repeating it over and over. And that really seems to be the main point of these teen novel films coming out all at once, is that they're just hammering that point home, and you get all of the same themes and memes throughout the films with some variation. But I guess the young audience is the most important part here. I mean because it mainly is targeted at them, and the future is about them anyway. So it seems as though they want kids to see this at least as a possibility for the future, if not like inevitability.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's generally what we're seeing here, and obviously we can reference the many trends analysis reports that we've covered in previous podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, one of the things that we've discussed in relation to these films is that although they're portraying basically a dystopian future as being inevitable in whatever iteration it is and whatever sort of scenario it is, it's kind of being presented as being inevitable, and they sort of they do present the ruling class as having a sort of a totalitarian, authoritarian agenda. It's kind of a weird scenario because one would think it would be counterintuitive for people who have such agendas to portray themselves in a bad light and portray the resistance in a good light, But it just reminded me of another quote from the book Propaganda by Jacques Ellul, of which I referenced at the beginning of the show here. And he says in Propaganda, sociologists have recognized that, above all, propaganda must change a person's environment. Kretsch and Kretschner insist on this fact, obviously it's two other sociologists, and show that a simple modification of this psychological context can bring about changes of attitude without ever directly attacking any particular attitudes or opinions. Similarly, McDougall, another sociologist presumably, says one must avoid attacking any trend frontally. It is better to concentrate one's efforts on the creation of psychological conditions so that the desired result seems to come from them naturally. So they don't necessarily, it's like we've discussed in other reviews, they don't necessarily have to sort of put any particular moral spin on the ideas that are being presented. They can sort of present the technocratic system as being good or bad. Basically in those basic terms. That's not as important as presenting it as being inevitable. That's the most important thing, is the inevitability factor, I think.
Very interesting. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That is so crazy, because it gets at the idea that all you have to do is just present an idea. And again, it doesn't matter who's evil and who's good in the movie. It's just about the idea as a whole. It's just about familiarization. I don't know. It makes me think about a lot of things, actually, and whether or not what I do, and like talking about transhumanism, whether that's even a good thing, to be quite honest. I think about that's something I've thought about. Like, is even talking about it a bad idea, because it gets the idea in people's minds?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's a valid question, because obviously, in our reviews we talk about the fact that if we go by the trends analysis reports, and if we go by what's being presented in these movies, we are left with the conclusion that this is inevitable. And so, in constantly talking about that fact and referencing that fact, are we basically creating some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy of some description, or are we at least contributing to one in some way?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a valid question.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, it's something that I think folks like us have to think about here, and I know I have. So I don't know, but certainly, I mean, the people making the movies, they're aware of this, and so that they can really do no wrong as long as they portray an idea. And it might even work better if they portray the bad guys in a light that the audience at any particular time is going to relate to. So you see a transhuman dystopian future, and that worries people at the moment. You know what I mean? So you can present it as such. And again, you present people's worst fears at first to work through those. Maybe it's the same principle that we were talking about there before. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's excuse me, sorry. I think that's definitely a technique or a process that is used quite frequently in a lot of these films. And I mean, especially if we go back, say 20 years ago, and look at like the first, well, more than 20 years ago now, but look at like the first Terminator films, which is sort of like the first big kind of, I don't know, Hollywood series to really go into AI, and what AI might sort of look like and what might happen. And it was just a horrible, terrible scenario where basically the minute it became sentient, it basically tried to kill off the whole human race.
That's right. And the way that series of movies works out is very interesting in this context, because the first movie, the AI is it's a monster movie where AI is a monster. The second movie, that same monsters return, same character, same actor playing that character, Arnold Schwarzenegger, we all know. But this time, that character saves the young boy from the more evil aspects of himself, in a way, the more evil aspects of AI. But it took the good part of AI to defeat the bad part of AI, and then they keep working on that theme and going forward with it.
Well, this is the theme that we always see in so many films of so many different descriptions, and that deal with so many different concepts. Is they will present the problem, and in a fairly sort of, I guess, objective or honest light, and saying that we've got all these problems and threats and whatnot from converging technologies, AI, and this kind of thing, and you've got some horrific scenario like the Matrix or whatever. But of course, the solution to the problem is always just more technology.
The solution is the same thing as the problem. Yeah,
exactly. It's never to reassess or reevaluate the concept on a fundamental level. It's just, we just need good technology to fight off the bad technology. And so once again, just absolutely really driving home the idea that this is all inevitable, and that if such a situation were to come about, the only sort of recourse we might have in such a situation would be to employ similar types of technology to try and counter the problems that the sort of negative technologies are creating, to put it sort of in simple terms.
Yeah, and as you're referencing Jacques Ellul here, I remember in his book I'm pretty sure it's from the Technological Society, his other book. He made mention that every new technology that comes out, for all its good things, it has even more bad consequences that are unforeseen that you can never predict, and then you got to deal with those issues. And that's right. Kind of the nature of it.
And people never think about that, People just, people think about the positive aspects. You're always sold the latest iPhone because it does this, that, and the next thing, and it's got some novel little feature like a fingerprint scanner, which people don't even think about, like what that is being used for, and where this is leading, and how this is just a stepping stone to something else. It doesn't even cross their mind. It's just, oh, that's cool. Oh wow, it's kind of it's like a little novelty, and then they get bored of it, and the next one comes out, which is even more pervasive and intrusive, basically, in terms of like surveillance and privacy and all that kind of stuff, and they'll just go with that because they're bored of the last novelty. So
yeah, down the line it goes. Yeah, but it's been an interesting year of films. This is the old man in both of us, I guess, coming out. Films just aren't what they used to. They're just getting worse and worse,
Yeah, that's it. Well, they really are. That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, people could maybe make the argument that, well, you guys are just going out and looking for films, which, contain all these themes and memes. And if you look for something, you'll always be able to find it. But I watch a sort of a fairly broad range of films, and if I don't watch them, I'll at least watch the trailer for them and sort of look into them a wee bit and see, what kind of ideas are being pushed in the films, and they are getting worse. I mean, we are just seeing a total saturation of almost all films with the same themes and memes. Everything
the
from
same things over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean,
everything from technology to relationships, just the same themes and ideas just being presented in all films now, and the quality is deteriorating rapidly.
And this is the crux of agenda-driven filmmaking. It's not about making a good movie; it's about presenting ideas to the audience, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's literally just become. I mean, entertainment is really just becoming a weapon, really a psychological weapon. More than anything else, I feel anyway. There's very few films out there these days which don't tend to push these types of themes and memes. Pretty much all of them do, and so it's become less, as you say, less about entertainment, less about good film, and less about sort of a real exploration of human condition and the arts and the muses and all the great things that we used to sort of identify entertainment with and artistic pursuits with. It's become less about that and more about just as you say, agenda-driven filmmaking, just making sure that the same ideas are incorporated into every film, and the plot and the script be damned.
And also they've convinced the audience that the whole art side of the film has to do with the special effects, like all the spectacle of it. Like, ooh, look at these fancy special effects, and like that to them is the epitome of art, that they can make something like look so real or whatever.
Well, that's it, and that's I mean, that's basically the primacy in terms of what attracts audience to films. I think the primacy is of that sort of dynamic is the special effects, the CGI. That's what draws in the big numbers. It's these crazy scenes like we see in Transformers or the like the Marvel comics, like the Avengers or whatever. It's just like that's what people go and see these films for. And that's supposedly now as you say, like that's the artistic, in quotation marks. Aspect of the film is just mental CGI scenes where it's blown away and engulfed in the spectacle of all this madness. And as I described before, I think this is being done very, very deliberately, in order to put people into an altered state of consciousness, just overwhelm their senses so that their mental firewall comes down and even more than it already was, so that they can just, really just hammer in these agendas and hammer in these concepts as being inevitable, I think.
Yeah, totally.
So it's been an interesting year. I mean,
it has been.
The teen novel thing has just exploded. I mean, I think that's just going to continue. I mean, these books are just, I mean, a lot of them were sort of fairly popular back at the time, but they just seem to be coming out of nowhere, so many of them that I wasn't aware of, just kidding on all the same themes, transhumanism, revolutionary ideas, revolutionary rhetoric, content, and basically the whole concept of some kind of future catastrophe that would necessitate massive changes on a global level. Yeah, we're just seeing this everywhere now.
Yeah, you definitely see the same thing. The theme of the world in crisis, and I guess the whole ecological crisis is played up typically. You see that over and over again. So it's an apocalyptic idea being put out there to, I guess, put forth the concept that we're leading up to or living within some sort of apocalyptic time.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, I was discussing this with Tom the other day, and the reviews that we did on Darren Brown's Apocalypse Experiment show that he did, basically sort of discussing the whole concept of why we've seen this massive increase in disaster films, which don't contain, sort of plots that revolve around just simple, like, confined disasters, like a volcano goes off somewhere, or there's some tornadoes somewhere, or whatever, but like some kind of global crisis, like an alien invasion or a massive financial crash. And we've seen that in quite a few films now, or a massive third world war, or a zombie plague, or whatever, and we're seeing this not just in mainstream media and mainstream film, but there's also an unfortunate tendency in the alternative media to push this as well. I mean, especially amongst the bigger names out there. If you go to some of the bigger sites, I will name names here on this occasion, people like Alex Jones, for example. If you go to his website, I mean, it's like I was saying with Tom the other day, it really does, if you were to read it, you really would think the sky was falling and that the world was going to end tomorrow. It's whatever it is, whether it's ISIS, whether it's Ebola, whether it's the Federal Reserve, whether it's immigrants, whether it's, gun issues, whatever it is, it's all going to hit the fan tomorrow, and we're just, we're on the tipping point. I mean, and so...
the world as you know it is falling apart.
Yeah.
We have the evidence for it. Therefore, you must react in some...
reactionary way.
Reactionary way. Here, watch the film Assault on Wall Street. You'll know exactly what to do and take it from there. There you go.
Yep. Grab your guns, go out there and shoot the place up.
Put your anonymous mask on first so people know that you're... Don't forget that.
You gotta be cool and up to date, and you gotta be going with the trends now, of course.
You gotta self-destruct, but it doesn't mean you can't look cool doing it.
And this is a theme. Which is just...
I don't know, just like the breaking of the morale of the public in general. It seems like it's coming from all angles, from the mainstream, the alternative, from everywhere these days. I don't know, it's just a real shame. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, there's a weird psychological sort of undercurrent to all this stuff, which I've sort of been thinking about recently. But, in relation to the sort of massive rise in apocalyptic films, and obviously a lot of this is very, very deliberate, but I think there is there's kind of a weird appeal in a lot of this stuff, in terms of almost a meta effect of some sort, or I don't know how you would describe it, but I mean, I was reading some excerpts from the philosopher Walter Benjamin. He was a sort of a Marxist philosopher from the sort of, I think he died in the mid 20th century, or mid to late 20th century. But anyway, there's a quote in one of his writings which basically says, "Mankind, which in Homer's time was an object of contemplation for the Olympian gods, now is one for itself. Its self-alienation has reached such a degree that it can experience its own destruction as an aesthetic pleasure of the first order." So, and I mean, Freud referred to this as a Thanatos instinct, the opposite drive to Eros, the life instinct, where we sort of get there's been scientific studies into this. People get a kind of a surge of pleasure from watching destruction and death and frightening things, and this guy was, we're talking 50, 60, 70 years ago, someone was foreseeing this, but basically humanity reaching a point where we would probably become so dysfunctional and self-alienated that we our own destruction would be a form of pleasure for us. And I think some of this type of thinking is being elicited in many of the films that we've been talking about here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see what themes and memes continue to recycle in the next coming year, 2015. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of the same thing. Maybe we'll see new ones. I don't know. What's your thought on that? You think they're going to change things around on us?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think things are changing so fast. Such a rapid rate right now, in terms of the types of things we're seeing in films. I mean, we've seen so many new norms come out in such a short space of time that it would not surprise me if we just continue to see that trend in general over the next year, where we just see things that are almost unbelievable. Things that you would never even dreamed of seeing in a film 10 years ago, in any film, regardless of the rating.
Yeah, because we witnessed that in films this year, The Giver was amazing in that aspect. Yeah.
We saw a graphic, explicit illustration of infanticide being done in a very calm, unemotional manner.
In a way that you wouldn't notice it unless you really sit back and go no, wait a minute, I've never seen that before. You really, it's difficult to catch yourself and do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people like us, we watch films with sort of our psychological filters on, so to speak, so that we're analyzing as we're watching, because this is what we do. But for the average audience, just because there's no drama in that particular scene, there was no sort of tension or conflict or anything like that. It was a very calm scene with very, very calm music, where a guy just got a baby onto a table and just stuck a needle in its head and killed it. And threw it down a garbage chute,
It was presented as a bad thing, of course, but it was presented nonetheless, which in itself is odd.
And it was presented with no real, the emotional and moral implications are there innately anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But the way it was presented was not in an emotional way. As I said, there was no sort of really sad music or sort of conflict or anything like that surrounding this issue at all. It was just very, very calm and sort of par for the course. That was the way it's presented in the film, at least. So that was definitely a new norm. And as I said, I think we're just going to see more of this stuff coming out, and things are just going to keep getting crazier and crazier. And it may even reach the point where we start having to have to use a lot of discretion in the types of films that we watch and the types of imagery that we subject ourselves to in doing what we do here, because I'm starting to wonder about what the kind of psychological risk, so to speak, might be in watching these types of films, because they are obviously meant to mess with your mind. And speaking in the broadest sense possible, this is what's going on with these films. Mm-hmm. And so in watching them, it's, and trying to, we're obviously trying to stand back as much as we can and be as objective as much as we can. But at the same time, the techniques that we're now seeing and the kind of confusing effects that we're noticing with some of these films really does make me wonder about, whether it might be a good idea for people like us, and this is speaking to the audience as well, to really start thinking about whether it's actually a good idea to come to actually see some of these films. Whether it's actually doing you some psychological damage. It's like we said with Assault on Wall Street. We said to people, hey, you know what? We don't recommend that you watch this film, to be honest. Mm-hmm. We're going to review it because we've watched it, but we would not recommend that other people watch it, because it will hurt you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's tough. It hasn't been easy to be sure. Yeah, it's crazy. These movies, even when you are paying attention as close as you can, they can still get to you. So I mean, I don't know. I guess this is dangerous work here, no doubt about it.
It is. It is dangerous work, I think, and I think it's safe to say that over the last year, it has taken some toll on me in some way. I mean, just watching, so many crazy films where the agenda, or the agendas in them are so overt and so obvious, at least to me and you anyway, that, it's, I mean, I think it has, I don't know, affected me in some way. I'm not sure in what way, but I think it can be a bit depressing sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the price we pay and part of the risk we take in doing what we're doing, because we believe in what we do. We believe that it needs to be done.
Yeah, because ultimately these things are out there and they're going to affect a mass audience. Everybody's going to go out and watch them no matter what. So it's good to inject some sort of real critical analysis of what's actually happening with these things. And we'll see what we can do from there. I mean, that's what we're doing on the show. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what comes in the years to come.
That's right. Well, I mean, so few people are doing this type of thing. I mean, I think I've seen maybe a few other instances, but they tend to be very short videos, like maybe a 5-minute review from, say,
Yeah,
some kind of old media fan or whatever, or something like that. But I don't know of any other shows out there which, are sort of regular and which go into this kind of detail that we do, and
yeah.
doing it on a regular basis in that way. So
I won't deride those short videos either, but yeah, there's only so much you can do in those short videos, and
well, yeah, I
sometimes
mean,
they're a bit superficial, to say.
yeah, that's I'm not critiquing that at all. I mean, good on the people who are doing that for sure. They're making an effort, they're doing something that's great, and they do make some good points. But yeah, there's only so much you can squeeze into 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Exactly.
And so yeah, I think
by the same token, there's only so much we can fit in an hour show here too. So we have to admit that we're limited as well here, and.
Well, that's right.
I mean, and again, it's important to call ourselves in question. I know I did earlier in the show, but I don't know. It's just something that I think at this point in time, it's making itself clear that we all need to reflect quite a bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now might be the time to do that a bit.
Yeah. I think self-reflection is key right now for everybody who's listening. There's a lot going on, a lot in general in the world right now, and especially in terms of mainstream media and politics and the so-called truth movement. A lot of tension, a lot of controversy, a lot of big sea changes, a lot of shifts in opinion. And this is an emerging phenomenon which we're not really sure about yet, and we're probably going to discuss it more in future. But I would encourage your statement there in saying that this is a time to reflect.
Take a minute,
step back, it's like Thomas Sheridan says, put the brakes on. Because we're being bombarded and saturated with propaganda and predictive programming right now. Absolutely bombarded and saturated it from every angle.
Yeah, and I guess that's it's good to put this disclaimer on the themes and memes year in review here to let people know never to take entertainment for granted, and never take the themes and memes in entertainment for granted, and really doing that in a thoughtful, effective way requires that we do take time out here and again, and those sorts of things. I don't know.
Yeah. Even just taking time out from sort of like listening to old media podcasts or checking news stories, or, whether it be mainstream or alternative, whatever, even just taking time out from doing that, I think can be a very necessary thing sometimes, because there's so much intensity in all of that I think it can have a really profound effect on the individual and collective psyche as a whole.
Yeah, so it's been quite a year, 2014. To say the least, and themes and memes has, with all the difficulty that we're speaking about here, I have enjoyed doing this podcast, and I do look forward to continuing it. Actually, Adam.
Yeah, me too. I mean, for all the difficulties, we've had technical problems at both ends, and we've had as I said, the fact that we're having to review films which are kind of not very good and often quite unpleasant as well, in some cases. And so, there are sort of unpleasant aspects, I guess, to this whole thing. But at the same time, I really do enjoy doing what we're doing here. I think it's productive and constructive. And really, the emphasis here is just to try and encourage people to think about the whole concept of ideas and the genesis of ideas, and how ideas can grow, and how memes can grow, and where they come from and where they're going. I think that's the general emphasis here, and most especially, of course, I think we may move into other areas in the future, but people have really got to start thinking critically about how powerful entertainment is in terms of changing your ideas, opinions, values, beliefs, viewpoints, whatever. And that has really been the focus of themes and memes so far. And so, if I was to sort of leave people with one final thought, I think it would be that.
Yeah. So keep listening. We'll still be here. You can subscribe to the podcast feed at ageoftransitions.com. I have it at the Trans Resistor radio feed there now. But we do hope to get a dedicated website up soon, and dedicated feed and all that. So look forward to that in the next year too, because that's something that we should have coming up.
Yep. Themes and Memes is just going to keep going, and we're just going to keep doing our best, and I think it's just going to get better. As you say, we're going to have a website, and we can even, as I said, there's a possibilities for even doing other types of work, like maybe articles or even short videos and what have you. So there's a whole bunch of possibilities there, and I'm looking forward to it. I think despite the craziness of this year, and what we both agree is going to be a very, very crazy year next year, I'm still looking forward to it. So it's been a great year, Aaron. I'm glad we started this. I'm glad we've kept it going, and I look forward to keeping it going in the future.
Yeah, me too, Adam. Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again, and to the audience, thank you very much. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, thanks to the audience, and have a nice Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Bye-bye. This interview was recorded on the 6th of December 2014.